Sure. Our final panelist is Professor Soraj Hongladarom. He's now teaching in the International Buddhist Studies College of Chulalongkorn Rajavidyalaya University. Let's welcome Professor Hongladarom.
This one. Forward, backward, line. Okay. Yeah, I'm very glad to be back at the Woodenfish Buddhism and Science Conference. I was invited by Venerable Ifa last time back in 2018. 6 years ago, it was before COVID, was in Shenzhen, China. And I would like to express my gratitude to her and to the wonderful organization of this event. I'm going to talk about ethics. I'm from philosophy, and my main preoccupation for this paper, for this talk, is mainly philosophical. Basically, what kind of thinking, what kind of theory should we have when we think about AI ethics? Has become a watchword, it has become a buzzword. Everybody seems to be talking about this. Okay, let's go. Okay, here is the outline. There are now hundreds of AI ethics guidelines around the world, and that is my basis of my talk today. What does it mean for there to be hundreds of guidelines all around the world? Their aims vary from protection of human dignity to promoting economic competitiveness and so on. However, many of these guidelines share a core set of principles in common. And then, despite of that, significant divergences do exist. Much has been said about the normative principles in the guidelines, but not as much on the rationale or the justification behind these principles. Thereby, my talk, my current thinking about this issue. Therefore, there seems to be the problem whether it is possible for there to be one common ground that provides a basis for ethical principles across cultures. And this is an age-old problem in philosophy. Philosophers, at least since Plato, way back more than 2,000 years, thought about the problem of the many and the one, whether the many can be reduced to the one, or whether the one can be kind of broken up into the many and so on. Especially so in the case of normative thinking. What should we do? What should we, refrain from doing and so on? So this leads to the question, what exactly is the overall goal of AI ethics? My proposal is this. We can align the goals of AI ethics by looking at what Buddhism has to say. Since all of us share this in common, we are sentient beings who suffer and naturally want to be free from suffering. We can then found AI ethics on this basis, on this foundation. So that's my kind of proposal to you. The aim of AI ethics, thus, is for AI to help us become free from suffering. It sounds like, commonplace, but the point of the talk is to, look for the kind of a justification theory behind this seemingly commonplace notion. Okay. AI ethics guidelines and regulation. Here is this website. You can see it here. You can check it up if you like. It's from an organization called Algorithm Watch. And they have collected, this is a bit dated, it's 2020, 4 years ago. A bit before that, they started the project of collecting AI ethics guidelines from all around the world. And they kept on collecting, and more guidelines kept springing up. And they kept collecting until they gave up in the end. They said, there was no funding available, no more funding. So they stopped. They said in the website they were going to stop collecting and then show the world, at the point when they stopped collecting. And then it's up to other organizations, other groups to, if they like, to continue collecting all these guidelines. Okay. The point is this. Oops. Why are there so many guidelines all around the world? And then my colleague, Jerd, and myself, we did this paper together in which we looked at, especially at the non-Western AI ethics guidelines from Singapore, China, Japan, Korea, Thailand, India, Qatar, and so on. All those which we were able to get our hands on during the time we did the research. And then we found something quite interesting. The core sets is there. I mean, if you have read something about AI ethics, you will find that there are some very common principles which are found in almost all the guidelines. AI must respect the right of privacy of people. For example, it must protect human dignity. It must be explainable, and so on and so on. However, when my colleague and I looked more closely at these guidelines, especially the non-Western ones, we found something interesting. We found some divergences, some principles that were not found in the other guidelines, especially those in the West. For example, before we look at the example, here is something about the core set of value. I quoted from a well-known book by Mark Zuckerberg on AI ethics. Just to pass this rather quickly to show you the common set of the core principles. AI, the development of AI should promote the well-being of sentient creatures and the autonomy of human beings, eliminate all types of discrimination, respect personal privacy, protect us from propaganda and manipulation, promote the democratic debate, and so on. And then the source of this is from the Montreal Declaration, produced by the University of Montreal back in 2017. Okay, just to give you a picture. And then another, I don't know whether it's a core set, but at least it's from the EU. And the EU perhaps, I don't know, tends to believe that it is the core. I don't know. These are the serious risks that the EU AI Act, which has just been passed, kind of emphasized to be, forbidden by the law. Unacceptable risks such as social scoring systems or manipulative AI, and then they talked about minimal risks, which are unregulated. And these include the majority of AI applications currently available on the EU single market, such as video games and spam filters and so on. So just to give you a picture. However, I think we can see that these laws and regulations focus on principles, but not why they become a principle in the first place. This is the interesting part. This is from the publication produced by the Thai Ministry of Digital Economy and Society. And the document is called Digital Thailand AI Ethics Guideline. Their number one ethics guideline is competitiveness, which means economic competitiveness. And, Chert and myself found that competitiveness appeared in very few AI ethics guidelines, not only in Thailand, but in very few. I don't remember, but maybe one or two or three guidelines from among hundreds that mention economic competitiveness as kind of an ethics core principle. So it's interesting. And then we kind of, produce our thoughts and our analysis as to why this is the case and whether elements of Thai history or Thai culture play a role in, shaping the mind of the people who formulated these guidelines into thinking that the economy has something to do with ethics and so on. So interesting. We have found divergences, that's the point, among the AI principles from all around the world. And the previous slide is an example. But there seems to be a need to put these divergent viewpoints under the same meta principle. Or at least this is what I have been thinking as a philosopher, perhaps. But the idea is that we cannot, or we should not, let there to be kind of further and further divergences in ethical guidelines, because the world is getting, as the cliche says, is getting smaller. And I'm here in Taipei, next week I'll be in Vienna for another meeting, also on AI. And then the week after that, I'm back to Bangkok, another meeting, also on AI and so on. The world is getting smaller. So we share a lot in common. We need to share a lot in common. So we need to find something that, bind us together while respecting the differences. And this, harks back to Plato, as I said earlier. So the point here is this. By arguing that Buddhism can provide such, an overarching or such binding principle that I just said earlier. I'm not advocating that, we should all become Buddhists. That's not possible. And the Buddha, another interesting thing of the Buddha is that he does not actively seek disciples. I mean, he did send his monks, his students in all directions to teach the Dharma. But there is no active program of, bringing in people, The point is to show what is there in Buddhism, and those who are interested will come on their own. So we can, and this is something of the Buddhist upaya, skillful means in a way. We can think about this meta principle, the basis for AI ethics, something that provides a basis for a set of universal values, as one of the previous speakers have mentioned, based on Buddhism, but doesn't have to be couched in Buddhist language. That's the point. So we do not need to mention the name Buddhism. Perhaps that's a minor point. The more important point is the content of the principle itself. But it's said here, we do not need to mention the name Buddhism in the same way that mindfulness practice, especially as it is done in the West. They don't need to refer to Buddhism. But we refer to the fact that all sentient beings naturally want to be free from suffering. I think this is a universal message. And this can provide a basis for an ethical theory. So this is the last slide. The purpose of an AI ethical system or system of ethics, including law, regulation, guidelines, and so on, is to help sentient beings to become ultimately free from suffering. And suffering does come in many forms. The text says there are three kinds of suffering. The suffering of pain, the one we are familiar with the most, both mental and physical pain, dukkha tukata in Pali. And then the second kind is the suffering of change, viparinama dukkata in Pali. Change itself is a kind of suffering when you think about it. And the third kind is the suffering of conditioned existence. And Peter talks a lot about structural suffering, how the current regime of technology structures the world, as he said earlier, in such a way that it, produces this very deep kind of suffering that we need to be aware of. So, sankhara dukkata in Pali. So, and the Buddha laid out kind of a plan for us to follow and to eliminate all these three kinds of suffering. So the reason why I believe the world needs this is because we need to reconcile the divergent ethical guidelines in AI together. And we can use this meta principle to build up specific rules to govern AI. So I stop here. Thank you.